Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different because today we're tackling two things at once. First, we're going to do the review of the first season of Helluva Boss, and while we do that, we're also going to fix and update my cape, something that I've been putting off for way too long. And well, I've been watching the series since the very beginning, but somehow I never got around to making a review. Then season 3 got announced and I thought, you know what? Now's the perfect time. So grab a coffee, a craft, or whatever you're working on, and let's talk about some emotionally damaged demons. And hey, this video is all about season 1, but don't worry, my full review of season 2 will be coming later. So subscribe and hit all the buttons, and with that out of the way, let's jump right into this. So about my cape, I'm gonna be honest, I've just kind of been closing it with an old brooch and hoping for the best, but well, today's the day because I also found this really cool fur collar and it kind of reminded me the Kinger. So naturally I decided it was time to not only fix my cloak, but add this collar too. But enough of that, let's start with Mission 0, and I'm sorry, but it's so much better than the previous pilot. The new pilot instantly showed how much the animation and pacing had improved, and that really made it feel more like a real TV show. In this episode, Blitz has Stolas' grimoire and has already started his business with Millie, Moxxie, and Loona, all while Stolas wants a bit more than company. And I absolutely loved how we got to have more time with Millie, Moxxie, and Loona, which I really appreciated, especially Millie and Moxxie together. They're just so fun to watch. It's also nice seeing Blitz being weirdly overprotective of Loona in his own way. And yeah, the IMP crew accidentally running over Vivian and Brandon, it's still hilarious. Also, they remade the IMP jingle, and I'm gonna be honest, I still prefer the original. What do you think? Do you like the original or the remake more? Let me know down in the comments below. And well, a bit of backstory for anyone who might not have seen the original short when I got this cape. Basically, I've wanted a cape my entire life. Some kids wanted to be astronauts, some kids wanted to be movie stars, and well, I wanted to go on an adventure and get a cape. Well, I went on the adventure. I just took a lot longer to find the cape. But now, if I ever manage to time travel, I can talk to the kid version of myself and I can honestly tell her that we achieved both of those goals. Well, episode 1, Murder Family, the gang goes to Earth for a hit and Moxxie has some problems with killing when he sees the family as seemingly harmless, only to realize later that they're basically the family from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But that aside, I absolutely love the scene where Moxxie accidentally ends up shooting the tank and releasing electric eels and lighting the entire office on fire. Seriously, it's one of the best moments in the show. But well, for those of you who might not know, it's winter here in Argentina. So of course, I took out my cape and I was excited to finally wear it. And I swear, I went to walk our dog Max and the button promptly decided it wanted to go on strike. Sadly, mid-walk, the stitching came undone, so like any responsible adult, I put the cape aside and ignored the problem for an entirely reasonable amount of time. Now, will this work? Honestly, I have absolutely no idea, but here we are. But let's move on to episode 2, Lululand. The gang gets hired by Stolas to protect him and Octavia during a trip to an amusement park, which in my opinion, they needed more help from falling debris than anything else. Anyway, Millie and Moxxie actually get to enjoy themselves for once, and Blitz, of course, manages to burn the entire place to the ground, fighting RoboFizz. And this is where the emotional side of the story really ramps up with Stolas and Octavia, and You Will Be Okay is easily one of the best songs in the season. Plus, baby Octavia is just so ridiculously adorable. And hand sewing really is tedious, but with how thick this cloak is, it's definitely a requirement. But even if it's tedious, I know it'll be worth it in the long run. Then episode 3, Spring Broken. Blitz and Veronica, a pop star, and Blitz's ex get in a fight over a parking spot and end up challenging each other to either kill or swoon the most people, and whoever wins gets the parking spot. Loona ends up crushing on Veronica's security guard Vortex, and that distracts her and shows off her more sensitive side. And Moxxie and Millie end up basically fighting a kaiju, but really, this giant fish fight is ridiculous in the best way. And of course, in the end, IMP ends up winning. And And here we go, sewing the other part of the button. You know, I always forget how much sewing is just putting something down, looking at it for 5 minutes, moving it half a centimeter, and repeating the process. I swear, I've spent more time deciding where this button goes than actually attaching it. Anyway, on to episode 4, Cherub. This episode really reminds me to Spy vs. Spy. Does anyone else remember that cartoon? But well, in this episode, Cherub and IMP compete. IMP tries to get rid of the morally bankrupt rich guy, while Cherub tries to convince him to stay breathing. But after plenty of shenanigans, the morally corrupt rich guy finally meets his end, thanks hilariously enough to Cherub, and they end up getting kicked out of heaven as a result. And I'm sorry, but one thing I didn't realize until I started working on this cloak is just how much it means to me. I found it randomly at a thrift store that my husband and I just happened across. That thrift store has long since closed, but because I wanted one for so many years, it's really fun getting to fix it. Then we have episode 5, Harvest Moon Festival, where we get to meet a new character, Striker. And I was so surprised to find out that for this episode, he was actually voiced by Norman Reedus from the Walking Dead series. I'm sorry, but that's such a cool pick. I just wish he could have continued to voice him. But oh well, it happens. In this episode, Stolas invites Blitz, Moxxie, Millie, and Loona to the Harvest Moon Festival in the Pride Ring, where they stay on the farm of Millie's parents, and it's there that they meet Striker, who at first just seems like a strong farmhand, but later ends up being a hitman with the means and orders to kill Stolas. Needless to say, Blitz saved the day, but it was definitely a close call. But I will say this, the fight scenes just keep getting better and better. I'll be honest, I was so scared for IMP the first time I watched this episode. But well, the buttons are starting to come together. I'm hoping that it'll stay on longer than the last time I fixed it. Here's hoping. And now on to adding the fur collar. I'm hoping it'll give my cape more of a fantasy adventurer vibe. Honestly, that's the look I've always wanted. Then episode 6, Truth Seekers. Blitz and Moxxie end up getting kidnapped by dorks. Funnily enough, a government entity to try and catch demons and prove their existence. Agent 1 and 2 try questioning Blitz and Moxxie, but that goes promptly nowhere. So they gas them with truth serum. They both end up getting major trips, which shows some of the prettiest animated scenes in season 1. I mean, look at that. While this goes down, Loona and Millie of course go to rescue them, all while slicing and dicing their way through the dorks' facility. Blitz and Moxxie come to, and they see Millie and Loona, and once they get united, literally all hell breaks loose. But while the gang slices through wave after wave of dorks goons, just as they're about to celebrate, Agent 2 hits the button and locks the facility down, and that's when Stolas comes to the rescue. And this rescue scene is equal parts incredibly sweet and horrifying. But all in all, they come back home, leaving Agent 1 and 2 hiding, terrified. But just when you think it's the end, Agent 1 reveals that they caught Stolas on camera. So that's a major problem. You know what's funny? This whole project started because this one tiny button broke. If that button had stayed attached, I probably would have kept putting this off for another year or 5. Anywho, episode 7. Aussies. Blitz stalks Millie and Moxxie on their first wedding anniversary, but the club, Aussie, only allows couples. So do you think Blitz takes the hint and realizes that maybe he's passing a boundary? Nope! He hesitantly decides to call Stolas and invites him, only to be met with Verosiga again. Then Moxxie goes to sing a song that he wrote for Millie, but he gets cut off by Asmodeus and Fitzroy, who ends up criticizing Moxxie. And then when Blitz tries to protect him, he gets publicly humiliated, and Stolas ends up being ashamed of him rather than proud. I felt so bad for Blitz in that moment. But Millie, always a badass, beats up Fizz, and while Asmodeus is worried, Moxxie and Millie take the stage again and sing their song. In the meantime, Blitz wants to leave, having been hurt by Stolas, and they leave together. Blitz drives him home, clearly upset, and Stolas tries to convince him to come and just hang out. But Blitz is just too hurt and drives off. The first time I watched this episode, it was earth-shattering. I felt so bad for both of them. Alright, continuing on. Episode 8, Queen Bee, Loona gets invited by Vortex to a Hellhound party at his girlfriend Beelzebub's house. Caught off guard by the fact that Vortex has a girlfriend, Loona tries and fails to blend in, so she ends up calling Blitz to come and pick her up to take her home. I love how he comes immediately, despite being an emotional wreck, and asks her if she's okay. Despite everything, he's really a good dad, but Loona ends up wanting to stay, so Blitz does too. But after the previous episode, it's safe to say that he's a disaster. So he just ends up drinking himself silly, and Loona drives him home and takes care of him. All in all, a good episode that really shows the connection between Loona and Blitz. And well, here you can see the cape on and completed. I really kind of love it, but my too much gene is telling me it needs beadwork, maybe embroidery. You tell me, what do you think? Should I do that? Something else? And tell me, what do you think of Helluva Boss Season 1? And what do you think of this Crafty review? Tell me everything in the comments below, and while you're down there, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit all the buttons. And of course, make sure to go on over and subscribe to my awesome husband's channel, Cosas Partiner. It's a Spanish-speaking channel that does gaming how-tos, interviews, reviews, and more. I will have his links down in the description below. And well, I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye!
Goodbye.